Okay, folks, we have returned. I'm gonna get to go to the next case for free again. 46. Turn for the worse.
Was he always this wild when he ran security?
Grim Chapel is living up to its name, Matthew. A series of bizarre murders and a frightening sanatorium are enough to make my blood run cold.
It's like what last time.
Fortunately, you solved the mystery that brought us here, arresting the fabled devil who helped Larry Rochester commit foul murder.
Endanger our lives or anything.
Ultimately, the devil was merely a local innkeeper trying to profit from people's crimes. Once arrested, Mr. Oland implied that the Rochester family are up to other nefarious deeds in Grim Chapel, which means our work here isn't over. However, I dare say we've earned some rest and recreation, Matthew, and what better place to go than the Wonderland Carnival? The traveling circus recently moved here from Sinner's End. I'm delighted you agree. Let's go to the circus.
Dylan Neal, Eat, Drink, and Be Buried. A gourmet detective mystery premieres Sunday at 9 on Hallmark Movies and
Okay, there we go.
My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but now I take Metamucil every day.
The atmosphere of this carnival isn't quite what I'd expected, Matthew. But judge not a book by its cover. I've just seen an advertisement for a knife-throwing act. Perhaps you should see that. The show is due to begin shortly, but let's take a peek inside the big top before everything starts.
But for only $7 a month, Rid-X helps break down waste. Avoid septic disaster with Rid-X.
Tonight, we stay in and get things cooking. We'll make it a meal to remember.
Alright.
Because tonight, we manja. Don't just eat, manja.
Millions of people across America have chosen Hydroxycut to lose weight. Hydroxycut is a
Oh my
#1
goodness.
selling weight loss supplement brand. It really works.
He's using a CPAP machine for sleep apnea. Now he sleeps like a baby. But if it isn't cleaned well, it could make him sick.
I'm so relieved we found the So Clean sanitizer.
I'm Dr. Joseph Cranen, a sleep apnea specialist. I recommend SoClean to my patients because it kills 99.9% of bacteria and germs, significantly reducing the risk of infection from an improperly clean sleep.
Here we go, 8
Drop the mask
seconds.
in and walk away. No more taking it apart and washing by hand every day. SoClean safely sanitizes
Got the first star.
disinfects your mask, hose, and reservoir without any harsh chemicals and works on all popular CPAPs. Try the world's first automated CPAP sanitizer. Risk-free.
Good heavens, Matthew. That poor woman is dead.
2704.
And I recognize the victim from those posters I saw. This is Lynn Hart, the carnival's star knife thrower.
Risk-free for 30 days.
Just look at her body. It appears Miss Hart was killed by her very own blades. Merriment will have to wait, Matthew. We have a murder to solve. And that necklace you found is a good start. Whoever dropped it may be the lead we're looking for. Let's decode that text to discover who it belongs to. That locked box might be concealing more clues. Let's open it up to see what's inside. So much for rest and relaxation, Matthew. There's work to be done. That's right. And I need to get some stars. I've already got one.
Jaffa was some kind of nut. I never really expected to hear from him again.
And I'll see you guys in just a bit while I get some. Okay, I've got 8 stars. I'll take the circus box first.
You earned it, Calvin. Listen, I'm going to need some background on the other winners for when I make the presentations, and then all I have to worry about is my speech.
You're every bit as super as Mark said.
82828. There's a pattern on that one. 2, 4, 2, 4, 8. There we go. A gun. My word! There's a firearm inside that wooden box, Matthew. Curious, what would a gun be doing in a circus tent? I wonder. Oh! The gun has fired of its own accord.
The transaction can go forward.
Of course, Matthew. This is one of those novelty pistols. And according to the flag, this one belongs to a certain Twinkles the Clown. Let's find Wonderland's resident funnyman and see if Twinkles knows anything about the victim.
$1,000 earnest money. You have the balance, $2 million.
Welcome to Wonderland Carnival. Would you like to see me juggle? I have my rubber chickens right here. Well, no thank you. Twinkles, I presume? That's me, Twinkles the Clown. Come now, everyone loves juggling. This is a carnival. Unfortunately, Mr. Twinkles, Senior Trooper Matthew is investigating the murder of Lynn Hart and... What? Lynn is dead? I'm afraid so. Did you know Miss Hart well? Yes, we were colleagues, friends really. I admired Lynn's talent with a knife. But I warned her about throwing sharp things around, that she'd get cut one day. Stick to juggling rubber chickens like me. Gold pendant now. Oh no. Wood for Woodford H. This necklace appears to belong to a certain H. Woodford. Wasn't a certain Hope Woodford a suspect in that murder of a supposed witch, Matthew? Well, it appears Miss Woodford was present on another crime scene. We must question her post-haste.
Sit. If you can train Oxford to sit, you can train yourself to cook with less oil. Introducing new pan spray pump.
Let's see what she knows. Oh. Wait. Thank goodness, Senior Trooper Matthew. You found my necklace. All I seem to do lately is lose things. Think nothing of it, Miss Woodford. Pray tell, what are you doing at the Wonderland Carnival? Searching for my sister Faith, of course. Since we last met, Senior Trooper Matthew, I discovered that my sister was confined to Gryphon Sanctuary the past few years. Your sister is in the asylum? How unfortunate. We were just there and... It wouldn't have mattered. She's recently escaped, and her trail led me to Wonderland Carnival. We wish you the best in finding her. During your search, did you happen to encounter this woman? Why, yes. I saw her getting ready when I looked for my sister backstage, but I'm afraid we didn't talk. Now, if you'll excuse me, Senior Trooper Matthew, I need to keep searching. I simply must find Faith. And we must continue searching for Miss Hart's killer, Matthew. If she was preparing herself backstage, I suggest we proceed there at once.
Penetrates deep, effectively washing away irritants and allergens. The result is superb relief from sinus congestion, colds, and allergies. Research shows 92% of My Pure Mist users could breathe better and sleep better with fewer symptoms. No wonder My Pure Mist has amazing reviews at Amazon, Target, and other major retailers. Why suffer? Get fast, natural relief today. My Pure Mist is available at Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, or Walgreens. Breathe better, sleep better. Get My Pure Mist at Target today.
Learning a language from books and CDs or in a classroom is one thing. Remembering and having real-life conversations is another. That's why there's Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in the world. Babbel's award-winning interactive technology gets you speaking
costume chess,
and best of all, remembering what you've learned.
When I started using Babbel, I really got into it.
You're able to retain all this information and remember what you learn without struggling to learn it.
Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons let you learn on the go. Now, you can try Babbel free. In just weeks, you'll have the conversational skills
on the phone
to use anywhere.
And I got the first star.
Meetings, on vacation with the ones you love.
It's not hard to learn a language if you
So
have
now
the
I'm
right
up to
program.
5.
It improved my accent 1,000%.
Look at these marvelous costumes. What a rare opportunity to witness the goings-on of the circus. Of course, Matthew, I must focus on the task at hand. Speaking of costumes, there are plenty inside that chest you found. Perhaps there's something in there that belongs to the victim. If so, we might learn more about Lynn Hart. My word! That photo strip was taken in an automated photo booth. One simply sits in the booth and the pictures are developed instantly. I remember seeing the machines at the World Exhibition. Sharp eye, Matthew. These pictures feature the victim's visage, together with another young fellow. Let's examine these photographs more closely to identify the gentleman in question.
Heads up, Mike. We may have a problem.
Colored rope. A rope, Matthew? What's that doing buried in this costume chest? You're right, Matthew. The blue and white pattern of this rope is identical to the cord used to tie up the victim, which means this may have been hidden here by Lynn Hart's killer. If this rope was handled by the dastardly culprit, Viola must examine it at once. 3 hours or 9? 3.
Provide you with a location.
The man is already under surveillance. Look, I know it's not your fault that you've been drawn into this operation, but you must understand that this is a highly sensitive...
Are you alright, Mark?
Jessica, I'll only be a few minutes. Have you got time for a cup of tea later?
Oh, of course.
Mrs. Fletcher, to be blunt, we have ample funds. What inducement would it take to get you to leave these premises, preferably leave Atlanta tonight?
To get out of your hair? Well, until I've fulfilled my obligations to the Amateur Mystery Writers Association, no inducement whatsoever.
Bearded lady.
Excuse me, because I've got a speech.
My word, Matthew. That fellow posing with the victim isn't a fellow at all. She's a bearded lady. According to the carnival's records, the woman's called Mysteria, a fitting name if ever there was one. Judging by those photographs, Mysteria and Miss Hart appear quite friendly, in which case you must speak with the bearded lady at once.
Position clear. Anything to do with disposition of Project 14 is of urgent concern to me.
Mark, as a friend, I gotta warn you. You're fooling with an obstruction of justice charge.
Arrest me. And I'll go public and the whole damn mess will come down around your ears.
Okay. This is case number 46.
Yes, you can help me. I'm trying to reach Lieutenant
And
Bragg.
let's talk to Mysteria now.
I know. He's been busy.
Pardon me,
Yes.
sir. Madam, you may call me Mysteria, and I assure you I'm a madam. Of course. My apologies. Senior Trooper Matthews from the Flying Squad. We're investigating the murder of Lynn Hart. Dear God, no! Lynn has been killed? Who would do such a thing? Lynn was my only friend at Wonderland. What am I going to do now? Your only friend? I'm obviously different from everybody else, but Lynn saw through the beard and the mustache. She saw me for who I truly am. But now she's dead, and I haven't a friend in the world. You have our sympathies, madam. Well, that's gonna do. I'll see you guys when these two are done. Bye for now.
Easy to read sales reports.
Okay, folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of the victim's body right now. Ready, aim.
Couldn't be any easier. Get started free at
Heavens, Richard! What are you doing with that knife? Throwing practice, Matthew. I had to test those knives myself to see exactly how the killer stabbed your victim. One puzzling thing to note, while the knife that was in your victim's stomach is undoubtedly the murder weapon, the two others were clearly plunged into her body post-mortem, which leads me to believe that the body was tied to the target in some gruesome display after the murder took place. The good news is your killer left traces of an oily substance on the knife's handle, laced with salt and particles of dry corn kernels. In layman's terms, popcorn. Marvelous work, Matthew. Our popcorn-eating killer will be strictly on bread and water once you have them behind bars.
And like any CEO, you could use a smart financial planner. Insurance and investments at American Savings Bank.
Put a little honeydew in your day. Jumbo's 2 new melon smoothies have 100% pure
Colored rope now.
sweet and fresh and
Viola, have you anything to tell us about that rope Matthew found?
So all the taste
I have. As expected, this rope is a piece of the cord used to restrain the victim. The colors and the cut mark match a piece I obtained from Richard. There's no doubt the killer handled this rope. Good show, Viola. Surely the assailant left behind some fingerprints. Fingerprints on a rope? That's not how this works, Isaac. However, I did detect minute traces of caffeine citrate and acetylsalicylic acid on the rope, a combination used in the treatment of headaches, which means your killer suffers from them. Headaches will be the least of the killer's worries with you on their trail, Matthew.
No question. Excuse me.
We came to Wonderland Carnival for a well-earned break, Matthew, but we've quickly found ourselves thrown into a murder investigation. Lynn Hart, the circus resident knife thrower, was killed with her own blade, gruesomely tied to her aptly named Wheel of Death. The victim's colleagues appeared to have been fond of her. Twinkles the Clown had misgivings about the dangers of Miss Hart's profession. While Mysteria, Wonderland's bearded lady, was a close friend and confidant of the victim. Then there's Hope Woodford, who seems now more resolute than ever on finding her lost sister.
What does that mean for you?
Tarnation, Matthew, why must we...
Marcus and Keon didn't push her, they didn't...
Matthew, what the devil was that noise? Yikes. We're gonna have to find out what that was. I'm pretty sure that was a lion, but we'll see what happens. In Chapter 2 of Mysteries of the Past, turn for the worse. See y'all then. Okay, folks, let's start Chapter 2 of Turn for the Worse.
No, I think it had much more to do with Darius' own insecurity. He was flooded with fear. And
I was right, it was a lion.
He was a real man.
Good heavens! Nice lion. Perhaps I have a treat somewhere. Look here, boy. A hot dog. Oh, I think this fellow rather likes me, Matthew. Yes, good boy. Now please go back to your cage, my furry fellow. Phew. Alright, Matthew, onward and upward. What say we search these fairgrounds for more clues?
Let's see what's under that skirt.
He was posturing for his friends, yes.
Was he? When he taunted Avery, when he harassed her, when he killed her, that was nothing but poor judgment? Lack of impulse control typical of all teenagers?
Many teenagers, when compared to adults, yes. That's why most violent crime is committed by youths under the age of 25, and it's certainly why a 15-year-old should not be tried as an adult.
So, what? Give him a mulligan? Boys will be boys? Are you saying that when Mr. McCrae, singled out a member of a protected class, taunting Avery because of her gender identity, he wasn't discriminating?
I don't believe so, no.
Then why didn't he push someone else off the bridge?
As I said, his
I think I see a clue.
caused him to react impulsively.
The same could be said of gay bashing, skinhead violence, and even lynching. Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained, no disregard. Have you an actual question, Mr. Woodward?
I guess the question is, isn't that why we have hate crime laws in this country?
Those laws should be for adults. This
Banana
case is
peel.
exactly when we should remember that
Faded
the mind
poster.
is still
Now I just gotta find the crystal ball. Oh, I think I see it already. Yes, it is.
Well, I think we need to remember that there are hundreds of thousands of children in New York City, yet only Darius McCrae pushed another child off a bridge. Because, as you said, Avery was other.
This poster is promoting the victim's knife-throwing act, Matthew. Unfortunately, much of the detail is faded because of this rain. I shall fetch your dusting kit. Shrewd thinking, Matthew. We know the killer eats popcorn. Perhaps they also have a sweet tooth and purchase something from this candy tray. And I agree, that locked safe is unusually large. I'm curious about what might be inside. Let's open it and find out.
Thank you, Darius.
Mr. Woodward.
You say that you did not mean to push Avery off the bridge. Why were you on the bridge in the first place?
just wanted to touch anything.
Tease.
It appears Miss Hart's knife-throwing act included an assistant, Matthew, a certain Dolores Bauer. This makes sense. After all, some brave soul needed to be strapped to the wheel of death while the victim flung her knives. Not to jump to conclusions, Matthew, but someone so closely connected to Miss Hart's performances is highly suspect. Let's ask Dolores Bauer some questions.
When you moved the camera back, was that a choice? But pushing her was not a choice.
It just felt like me and I just reacted.
Pardon me, Miss Bauer. Senior Trooper Matthews investigating the murder of your partner. Yes, such a tragedy. How will we ever put on a show without her? Put on a show? You don't seem to realize the gravity of the situation. Miss Hart was stabbed multiple times, which makes you, her assistant, our principal suspect. Me? Kill Lynn? Preposterous! Why would I murder Wonderland's star attraction? It's hard enough enticing visitors as it is. I'd have to be an imbecile to murder her, let alone doing it with knives. Now if we're through, I've got a show to salvage. You wouldn't care to take a spin on the wheel of death, Senior Trooper Matthew? Thanks, but no thanks. I will pass. I'd rather keep my body in one piece.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The nation's very survival depends upon law and order.
Okay, and the candy tray now. We'll take care of that now. And let's hope that we will find... Oh. I think I see where it went. Aha! A medicine box. That candy tray had a medicine tin buried in it, and there's a blood stain inside, Matthew. You're right, this is caffeine citrate, the medicine our killer uses to prevent headaches. If this tin belongs to the culprit, Viola must examine its contents.
Get 2 flame grilled Whopper sandwiches for just $6, only at Burger King.
This will be 12 hours. See you guys for that, but first, we got one more to do. Lock safe.
Where to find the best deal?
You know, why don't I help?
What's that?
Car gurus. Color?
Silver. Car gurus?
Low miles, 2 grand below market value.
5.7.
Ooh, I'm beat.
There we are. 57755.
Car Gurus. Find great deals from top-rated dealers near you.
95975.
Entertaining, 4 stars, outstanding, one of the best movies of the year.
I think it's pretty much impossible to get a 9 energy on this.
Chadwick Boseman, Josh Gad, Sterling K. Brown, Kate Hudson, Dan Stevens, Marshall, PG-13.
Got it.
American Dream. It's more than tank tops, fireworks, and high cholesterol.
Oh.
It's all that stuff.
Good heavens, Matthew. There's a man in that safe. Blast. Another 20 seconds and I would have freed myself. Harold Coppersmith, at your service. The greatest magician the world has ever known. I'd shake your hand, but... We're here investigating the murder of Lynn Hart, Mr. Coppersmith. A colleague of yours, I presume. Lynn's got herself killed, has she? Well, just give me a few seconds and I'll get out of these chains. You do that, Mr. Coppersmith. Senior Trooper Matthew will be waiting to have a word with you.
Get the best bang for anyone. Starting 17.
Thanks to Pizza Hut's $7.99 large pizza deal, it's never been easier to bring everyone to the table. Get an oven-hot large pizza with 2 of your favorite toppings for just $7.99. It's the best pizza delivery deal out there.
Now let's see what Harold Coppersmith has to say.
Can you feel it? At JCPenney, Levi's at their lowest.
That was most impressive, cracking my safe, Senior Trooper Matthew. Have you considered a career as an escape artist? No, we have not, Mr. Coppersmith. Now to the matter of Miss Hart's murder. Yes, very tragic, but you cannot possibly think I had anything to do with it. I've been literally tied up all day. We were hoping you could tell us something about Miss Hart. Perhaps someone might have wished to harm her? I know nothing of the sort. Lynn was a highly skilled performer, nowhere near as charismatic as myself, mind you. Other than that, I knew nothing about the woman. Now, if you'll excuse me, Senior Trooper Matthew, I must lie down. I have a cracking headache. Ooh, he escaped.
Mr. Eric, with all due respect to Mr. Parker, his testimony is clearly more appropriate for a victim impact statement.
I'll see you guys when the medicine box is done. Okay, we are back now, and the medicine box is done. So let's get the results there. Who would have thought a small medicine tin could be such a rich source of valuable information, Matthew? I take it you've discovered something noteworthy, Viola? I have indeed. To begin with, the blood is a match for the victim's type, so you can be certain this tin was left behind by her killer. Now, we know the culprit uses caffeine citrate to treat headaches, but this tin reveals another valuable clue. Upon close examination, I discovered minute traces of sulfur, charcoal, and potassium nitrate, a mild form of gunpowder. Gunpowder? How strange, given the victim was stabbed, not shot. I thought that too, but I found the powder comes from the replica rifles at the Carnival shooting gallery. The killer must be an enthusiast of the sideshow attraction. Well, Matthew, this shoots down any plans our killer might have had of escaping. Their penchant for shooting galleries will give them away. We're hot on the killer's trail now, Matthew. Let's return to the scene of the crime. Torn photo. There we go. Another 10,000 coins coming my way. Look, Matthew, a flyer for the Tunnel of Love. I quite fancy the idea of gently drifting through the dark with Marla hand in hand. My apologies, Matthew. That was most unprofessional. There appears to be a message written by the victim. You hold the keys to my heart. Lynn. So our victim was enamored with someone, but with whom? Perhaps the black hair on that flyer will provide an answer. And this appears to be a torn photograph. I know you'll make quick work putting that together, Matthew. Why, the woman in this photograph is not Hope Woodford. However, she bears a striking resemblance. Hope showed you that torn picture before, Matthew. Hope showed you that torn picture before, Matthew? So this is her missing sister, Faith. But why tear up this photo again? Has Hope abandoned her search? I agree, Matthew. Let's speak to Hope Woodford again. We were under the impression your search for your sister was of the utmost importance, Miss Woodford, but we found Faith's photograph torn. I'd never rip up that picture. It was that deceitful hag who did it, Lynn Hart. I beg your pardon? You claimed you never spoken to the victim. I showed this picture to everyone at the carnival. I even played at the shooting gallery so I could talk to the sideshow vendors. When Miss Hart saw the photograph, I saw recognition in her eyes. She knew Faith. But she claimed she knew nothing, ripping up my picture. So we argued and I threw my popcorn in her face. Ah, perhaps this quarrel of yours got out of hand. I'm not the criminal here. I was just tired of everyone lying to me. First my parents, then Lynn. I just want to find my sister. There we are. And I got the 9 in time. Looks sharp, Matthew. Let's get this hair sample you've collected off that flyer to Viola at once. $12. And I'll see you guys then. Okay, I'm under a limited energy happy hour, so I'm gonna speed this up a little bit.
I'll move for a hearing. If the technique isn't generally accepted, Dave's not qualified to be witness. 5 EUS is very clear, Your Honor. Until scientific
Have you discovered anything of note from that sample of hair left on our victim's declaration of love, Viola? More than you would expect, Isaac. On the surface, it's quite straightforward, as the sample is obviously facial hair, but... Ah, so we can safely conclude our victim addressed this message to a man. Not so fast. The facial hairs were dusted with minute particles of makeup, or more specifically, lipstick. So you're saying the bearded gentleman in question wore lipstick? Of course, man. Of course. Matthew, you're right. Mysteria, the carnival's bearded lady, matches this unconventional profile. Mysteria indicated she and the victim were friends, but never alluded to romantic involvement. However, this message seems to suggest otherwise. We must find Mysteria and discuss the true nature of her relationship with Lynn Hart.
I consider sufficient to say it's valid.
You don't think it works, Dr. Jacob?
There's no proof of its reliability with autistic children. In my opinion, the messages reflect the...
Have you caught Lynn's killer, Senior Trooper Matthew? I tried eating some popcorn, but was so distraught I couldn't finish it. We are closing in on the culprit, but we wanted you to explain this message. It seems you and Miss Hart were more than friends. Oh, that flyer, how embarrassing. Lynn and I were very close, it's true. I'd often win her small gifts at the shooting gallery, just to see her smile. But Lynn mistook this for romantic gestures. After she handed me this flyer, I made it clear I did not return her feelings. Matters of the heart are often powerful motives for murder, madam. Perish the thought, Senior Trooper Matthew. Lynn was my most trusted friend and confidant, and my life will never be the same without her.
Yes, I am. No more questions. I've seen the technique used successfully.
We've admittedly encountered a colorful cast of characters at Wonderland Carnival, Matthew, but who among them would have motive to kill Lynn Hart? Her assistant, Dolores Bauer, and the illusionist Harold Coppersmith were both indifferent to the death of their colleague. While Mysteria's complicated relationship with the victim may have driven her to murder. Hope Woodford most certainly quarreled with Miss Hart. Her relentless search for faith borders on the obsessive. Frankly, there's... Matthew, come quickly. I've done something terrible. I was experimenting with some magic tricks, and I've made Maddie disappear. Oh, Charlie.
The first word David typed was water.
I'll see you guys for Chapter 3 then.
After all these
Okay,
years,
folks, we are back now, and we're going to start Chapter 3 of Turn for the Worst.
No more questions.
Disappear? How?
Go right ahead.
I was trying a vanishing illusion in my workshop. Maddie was my assistant. No sooner had I said the magic words, she was gone. Please, Matthew, come help me get her back.
Your Honor.
Mrs. Velarde, do as Mr. McCoy asks.
See, Matthew? Maddie is nowhere to be found. I don't know what to do. Charles DuPont! Of all the foolish things, what on earth did you think you were doing?
David? Please look at the card.
Maddie! Thank goodness you're safe. I was so worried. Don't Maddie me. 1 minute I'm here taking part in your juvenile games, and the next I'm stuck in your closet, locked in the dark. Thankfully, Evie heard me calling for help. Darling, I don't want to hear it, Charlie. I need to be alone. Dear me, Matthew, I've made a mess of things this time. I had better go talk to her. Ah, Matthew, young love can be so fragile. We'd best let them sort this out themselves. In the meantime, Lynn Hart's killer has staged a vanishing act of their own, and it's up to us to find them. We know the culprit was present in the circus dressing room following the murder, so perhaps another look backstage will prove fruitful.
David, look at the card. David, tell us what's on the card.
Under 30 minutes.
This isn't fair. David just doesn't understand what you want.
Mrs. Velarde, please.
You're not being fair. Dr. Coulter, please explain to them they're not giving him a chance.
Mrs. Velarde, please. You're excused.
Just got a judge and told Mrs. Velarde that she's resigning herself at a loss.
Box of chocolates.
That doesn't exactly make me want to jump up and cheer.
Just a minute. We didn't drag this boy into the spotlight. Our good doctor did that. Placing his interests ahead of his patients.
I don't think his patients even figured.
There we go.
None of which place any police reporting used the helmet on Kevin Jeffries.
Anyone confirm Miss Randazzo's
First one.
testimony?
We re-interviewed the employees. They all said they didn't know.
Those chocolates appear to have been intended for the victim, Matthew. We've confirmed the bearded lady didn't have amorous intentions towards Miss Hart, but clearly someone else did. A sample of that white substance may tell us who.
We can assume neither he nor
That handbag is undoubtedly the victim's. A search through Miss Hart's personal effects could provide us with more details surrounding the circumstances of her murder. That broken target, on the other hand, might simply be rubbish. But if you wish to put it back together, I'll trust your instincts, Matthew.
And you have the determination to keep going. Humira has a proven track record of being prescribed for nearly 10 years. Humira works inside the body to target and help block a specific source of inflammation that contributes to symptoms. In clinical trials, most adults taking Humira were clear or almost clear, and many saw 70%
I'm going to get everything out of the way now.
in just 4 months.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions,
870
Before treatment, get tested for
BCL.
TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections
3UM.
and if you've had TB,
Missed out on the 9.
or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an
You
infection.
managed to get the victim's bag open, Matthew, but it's empty apart from the strange notebook. Let's take a look inside. Oh dear, I cannot make head nor tail of these bizarre symbols. Unusual codes and icons may not be my forte, but they certainly are right up Evie's alley. Let's enter this notebook at once.
Get your first 2 weeks free at HubbleContacts.com.
When I was your age, television was full of books. This is a special book. It's got things are wonderful. You're myth-fighting.
And a broken target now.
Monsters.
I don't think they exist.
True love.
This is a kissing book.
All right. Torture forever. Revenge.
Just in time. I can do this better than you, Lynn. Oh my god. Your instincts proved correct, Matthew. This is the victim's knife-throwing target. And look at that message. I can do this better than you, Lynn. Someone was clearly convinced they could upstage the victim's knife-throwing abilities. I agree, Matthew. Miss Hart's assistant is a likely candidate. Dolores Bauer was angry their show would be adversely affected by Miss Hart's murder. Perhaps that wasn't the only thing she was cross about. Let's speak to her about this message.
the My Pillow guy. That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives.
Must we do this now, Senior Trooper Matthew? I have such a dreadful headache. I had to borrow some caffeine citrate from Mysteria. I'm afraid we must insist, Miss Bauer. We found this target and we're wondering if you might explain this message. Lynn broke that, did she? That figures. She could never accept the truth that I was a superior talent. A roadblock was all Lynn was, standing in my way. I should have been the star of the show, but she insisted I remain the assistant, strapped to that wheel, spun around like a gramophone record. One could very easily conclude you employed your superior skills to right that wrong, Miss Bauer. Hardly. I'm a performer, Senior Trooper Matthew, an artist, murderous, crass, and beneath me.
Regardless of your sleep position, for the best sleep of your life.
Dolores Bauer is not the one.
To wake up in the morning and feel well rested. It's shocking to me that a pillow could make this big of a difference.
Doesn't look that way, I should say.
I make all my pillows in my home state of Minnesota, and I back them with my 60-day money-back guarantee. My pillow has a 10-year warranty and it's machine washable and dryable. Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and my pillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
Call or go to mypillow.com now, and Mike will give you 2 MyPillow premiums
7.
for a low price. Use the promo code and you'll
Let's make haste and get that substance you collected from that box of chocolates under the microscope, Matthew. The sooner we discover the identity of Lynn Hart's suitor, the better.
Feeling good. I knew you would.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world.
Every Friday. 2 days of back-to-back Law and Order.
If you lose money, I'll pull your head off.
Twice the crimes. Twice the cops. Twice
Okay.
the law. And twice the order.
Objection. Objection.
The Law and Order Marathon. Continues next on Sundance TV.
3 people saw it on the television monitor. We heard you say it.
Clown makeup.
Mrs. Velarde.
That substance you found on that box of chocolates is face makeup, Matthew. Or more specifically, the kind worn by a clown. Could it have been Twinkles, Wonderland's resident funny man, who sent Miss Hart these passionate pralines? Twinkle spoke highly of Miss Hart's professional prowess, but it appears his affections towards the victim are more of the romantic nature. Let's find him at once.
I can compel your answer, Mrs. Velarde.
Yes, I've seen it. I'm Captain Jeffries.
They use it on your son.
It works, Mr. McCoy. A boy died because he was forced to wear it. My David is alive.
When we spoke to you earlier, Twinkles, you neglected to mention you had romantic intentions towards Miss Hart. Well... Oh, alright, no sense denying it. I was in love with Lynn. She was such a beautiful woman, in every sense of the word. It made me want to share my popcorn with her, or try to make her laugh. But she would hardly look at me. But could you blame her, Senior Trooper Matthew? Who would want to be with a freak like me? Well, yes, I can see how your makeup could be off-putting. At first I was angry, taking out my frustrations at the shooting gallery. But in the end I was just sad, getting headaches all the time. People don't realize, Senior Trooper Matthew, there's a man with feelings behind this makeup. Well, that's going to do for this. I'll let the notebook run its course. See y'all then. Hello, folks. We have returned, and let's get the results of the notebook from Evie. This notebook is one of the most fascinating things I've seen in ages, Matthew. However, once I realized what I was looking at, I felt like I was intruding. I don't follow, Evie. It's a book of magic tricks. These cryptic diagrams are detailed instructions on performing magical illusions. As curious as I am, I didn't want to pry. A magician's secrets are sacred, Matthew. A book of magician's secrets? Why, this must belong to Harold Coppersmith. What was the victim doing with this? Unfortunately, we cannot ask Miss Hart, but Mr. Coppersmith is alive and well. Let's see if he's rematerialized, Matthew. Ah, Senior Trooper Matthew, you've just caught me on a break. Care for some popcorn? No, Mr. Coppersmith. We found your notebook and are wondering how it got into the victim's hands. Thank the stars you found my book. You didn't look inside, did you? Well, no, we simply... Lynn, that treacherous Jezebel. She feigned interest in my illusions in an effort to get closer to me, all the while scheming to steal my book. Once she had it, she blackmailed me, threatening to expose my secrets to the world. I was so angry I had a mind to shoot her right there and then with my gallery rifle. But I ignored her threats. A magician never reveals their secrets. I will take them to the grave. To be more precise, Mr. Coppersmith, Miss Hart did. And I do hope for your sake you didn't put her there, or your next disappearing act will be right into a prison cell. The facts of this case are growing more complicated by the minute, Matthew. Not only have you discovered the victim was blackmailing Harold Coppersmith, threatening to reveal his secrets, there's a bizarre triangle of unrequited love between Miss Hart, the bearded lady, and Twinkles the clown. My sights, however, are firmly aimed at Miss Hart's assistant, who benefits greatly by the death of her partner and will eagerly take over as star of the show. Convoluted as it may seem, we shall find the killer, Matthew. Let's make another sweep of these fairgrounds. Perhaps there are clues we overlooked. Basket of toys. There we are. That must be Lynn Hart's set of throwing knives, Matthew. The 3 blades we found in the victim's body are missing. The killer must have taken the knives and discarded the rest of the set here. As such, a sample of those red fragments could offer us a crucial lead. Good thinking, Matthew. Searching through that basket of carnival prizes. You never know what we might discover. Miss Hart's killer has been elusive, but they shan't remain at large for long. Oh, finally, 6. One moment. Okay. That was quick work collecting a sample of those red fragments from the victim's knives, Matthew. Let's maintain our momentum and get this to Viola. And basket of toys. Ooh. Bloody rag. You found a bloody rag buried amongst those carnival toys, Matthew. If that blood matches the victim, we can be certain this was discarded by the killer. Let's dispatch this to Viola, post-haste. 15 hours. I'll see you all when that's done. Okay, folks, we have returned. Red fragments right now. What's in a name that which you call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet? I take it this Shakespearean soliloquy has something to do with the sample of red fragments Matthew found on the victim's knife set? Indeed it does, Isaac. Those pieces will undoubtedly help you narrow down that field of suspects. The fragments are in fact pieces of rose petals. I've deduced, therefore, that Miss Hart's killer must be wearing a red rose on their person, and that these petals fell off when they retrieved the victim's knives. Well done, Matthew. It shan't be long before you've caught this rose-wearing killer red-handed. Talbot's running out of room to film again. Only have 17.5 minutes to film this thing. I don't know why. There's always a palpable sense of mystery and illusion at a carnival, Matthew, and this cloth you sent me is no exception. First of all, I can confirm this blood matches the victim's type, so you can be positive the cloth was discarded by her killer. Splendid work, Viola, and I've no doubt you just discerned some other minute element left behind by the killer, some vital clue. Oddly enough, no. Apart from the blood, the cloth is devoid of contaminants. Botheration, Matthew! An unfortunate dead end. Fear not, Isaac. The cloth itself is an important clue, Matthew. This specific material is designed to polish rhinestones, or in other words, false diamonds. If the killer was in possession of a cloth of this nature, it indicates they must be wearing rhinestones. Well, I'm confident you won't be dazzled by false diamonds, Matthew. We're on the hunt for a killer wearing rhinestones. The marvel, magic, and mystery of the carnival weren't enough to distract you from identifying Lynn Hart's killer, Matthew. Grab the handcuffs. It's time to make an arrest. I do not see rhinestones on Twinkles the Clown. It's definitely not Hope Woodford. Wait a minute. It's not Harold Coppersmith. It's Mysteria. Mysteria, you're under arrest for the murder of Lynn Hart. What? How could you say such a thing? Lynn was my dearest friend. Then how is it we found your rose petals on the victim's knives? The ones you used to stab Miss Hart. Her knives? I've never touched those. The blade in question suggests otherwise. The blades in question suggest otherwise. Residue from your popcorn was found on the murder weapon. You must believe me, Senior Trooper Matthew. I never hurt Lynn. You may have tried to ease your conscience wiping your hands clean of the victim's blood, but your rhinestone cloth has been your undoing. What did your closest friend, whom you claim to have the deepest affection for, ever do that drove you to murder? She found out who I was. Lynn discovered my true identity. Your true identity? What do you mean? Well, you see, Senior Trooper Matthew, I am Faith Woodford. What? Faith Woodford? Hope's sister? Yes. After I escaped from Gryphon Sanctuary, I needed somewhere to hide. A place where I could blend in and disappear. So I became Mysteria, Wonderland's bearded lady. Nobody suspected me. Nobody would come looking for me here. But when Lynn fell in love with me, she started digging into my past and discovered my true identity. When she told me about it, I just panicked. I couldn't risk my secret getting out. I haven't even revealed myself to my sister for fear of being sent back to the asylum. So you murdered your friend? It all happened so fast. I'd stabbed her before I knew what was happening. I couldn't bear being sent back to Gryphon Sanctuary, so I staged the murder to cover my tracks. I didn't want to do it. You must believe me, Senior Trooper Matthew. But I had no choice. I don't belong at the asylum. And yet your plans have availed you nothing, Miss Woodford. You're under arrest for the murder of Lynn Hart. Faith Woodford, otherwise known as Mysteria, you stand before this court charged with the murder of Lynn Hart. How do you plead? Guilty, Your Honor. I murdered my closest friend, but I had no choice. I grow tired of criminals claiming they had no option but to commit murder. There are always lawful alternatives. But you don't understand. I simply couldn't risk being sent back to Gryphon Sanctuary. I was going mad there. Presumably, this is the reason you were committed there in the first place, Miss Woodford. The fact you escaped only to commit murder does not speak in your favor. Therefore, this court has no choice but to send you back to the asylum to spend the rest of your days under strict supervision. No, you mustn't. I cannot go back. I don't belong there. Have mercy, please. A more tragic case I can hardly conceive, Matthew. We finally discovered the whereabouts of Hope Woodford's sister, Faith, only to have to arrest her for murder. It appears Hope was right all along. Her sister was hiding at the carnival after escaping from Gryphon Sanctuary. It is sad the Woodford sisters couldn't be happily reunited, but Faith clearly wasn't fit to leave the asylum. And once again, justice has been served, Matthew, thanks to your exemplary efforts. So we finally found Hope Woodford. It wasn't Dolores Bauer. She was cleared from the start. Harold Coppersmith, no Rose. No rhinestones on Twinkles the Clown. Wasn't Hope Woodford. She was cleared early. It was Mysteria, otherwise known as Faith Woodford. I'll see you guys for Lost Souls 4-6. Okay, we have returned now, and it's now time for Lost Souls 4-6. This is the second time a patient from Gryphon Sanctuary has been found guilty of murder. If I were them, I'd be keeping a closer eye on their patients. Apologies for the interruption, Matthew, but I need your help. Maddie is still furious about her unfortunate disappearance. I must make it up to her. So I was thinking, if I could learn a few magic tricks that I could show her, she might find it in her heart to forgive me. Perhaps you could introduce me to Harold Coppersmith, Matthew. I'm certain he will be willing to teach me. Well, I suppose if Matthew is willing to speak with this fellow, I don't see why not. He might... Senior Trooper Matthew, is it true you sent my sister back to Gryphon Sanctuary? You're making a grave mistake. My sister is not crazy. She doesn't belong there. Those are very serious claims, Miss Woodford. You're going to have to explain yourself. Matthew, I can interrogate Hope Woodford with you, unless you'd rather talk to Mr. Coppersmith first. I'll talk to Harold Coppersmith first. Ah, Senior Trooper Matthew, you decided to join the carnival as an illusionist after all? Not exactly, Mr. Coppersmith, but we were hoping you might teach me a few of your magic tricks. I told you before, a magician never reveals his secrets. How I perform my tricks, as you so inaccurately call them, shall remain a mystery. Please, Mr. Coppersmith, I'm a man of science. You could at least give me a sporting chance to prove my mettle. Very well, but I doubt you'll succeed. You'll find some of my equipment in my dressing room, Senior Trooper Matthew. Are you up to the challenge of solving a mystery? Should you master it, you'll be well on your way to becoming a magician. Why, thank you, Mr. Coppersmith. Come, Matthew, let's get ourselves backstage. Aha! There we go. Look, Matthew, the equipment Harold Coppersmith mentioned must be hidden in that box. Let's not waste a moment opening up this box. I can hardly contain my excitement. Wow. It's almost very similar to Alakazam. What did you find inside that box, Matthew? Potions? A book of spells? The proverbial smoke and mirrors? This box is full of strange mechanisms. Not exactly what I'd expected. Nevertheless, no mystery is too great for me. As I said, a DuPont always seeks knowledge. Give me a few hours with this box in my lab, Matthew. I'll crack its secrets in no time. Makes me wonder at the end of this thing if they're actually going to go back to present time and Jack Archer and everybody else in the World Edition. Now let's see what Hope Woodford has to say. Senior Trooper Matthew, you're making a mistake. Faith has no business being locked up at Gryphon Sanctuary. She isn't mentally unstable. You are aware that your sister escaped from the aforementioned institution and has been convicted of a senseless murder. These are hardly the actions of a stable individual. I understand Faith committed a terrible crime and must pay the consequences, but she was only trying to protect herself. If you don't believe me, I can prove it to you. I have Faith's diary right here with all of her... Oh, I told you I'm always misplacing things. I must have dropped my sister's diary when I was at the Wonderland Carnival. If you can find it, Senior Trooper Matthew, you will see that I'm telling the truth. My sister belongs in prison, not an asylum. Very well, Miss Woodford. If there's any credibility to your account, Senior Trooper Matthew must discover it for certain. Let's return to the fairgrounds at once. Aha, I see it already. There's the diary. There we are. Not my best score, but oh well. If Hope Woodford is to be believed, that diary you found could very well belong to her sister Faith. The text on the cover is faded, Matthew, but I'm sure retrieving it will be child's play. Diary of Faith Woodford. Perfect. It is her. Huzzah, Matthew! You found Faith Woodford's diary. But what are we to do with this anthology of Faith's entries? How can we use this to determine the veracity of Hope's claims that her sister is of sound mind? Very shrewd, Matthew. Diego can examine the diary's contents to get a better understanding of the woman who wrote it. Let's dispatch this journal to Diego, post-haste. Personally, I would have liked to see Hope Woodford just say it right to our faces, but we'll get to that when we can. But oh well. Oh, they're both 6 hours. Okay. So I'll see you guys when these two are finished. Okay, folks. Let's get the results of the magic box right now. My word, Matthew, this box is astounding. I could never have imagined what it was capable of. Naturally, a magician can't go into detail, but suffice it to say, the box has the capacity to project light, creating cunning illusions. There are also numerous compartments hidden inside these mechanisms, so after the magician conceals the device, one can perform fascinating feats of fantasy. There's so much more I could do, but I'm dying to show Maddie. Let's go find her, Matthew. I don't know why you've dragged me in here, Matthew. I've nothing to say to... Poof. Madeline, my dearest, prepare to be dazzled. A rose by any other name would never smell as sweet as you. Oh, look at that. Why, Charlie! Oh, my! My flames of passion burn for you. Oh, Charlie. Just the sight of your face, my darling, makes my love for you take flight. My goodness, Charlie, how did you... Matthew persuaded Harold Coppersmith to teach you some illusions. I wanted to apologize, to prove to you I could use it. Oh, Charlie, you may be a fool, but you're the smartest one in the world. And you're my fool. And you're everything this fool could ever hope for, Maddie. Thank you for all of your help, Matthew. Please, I'd like you to have this. I found it hidden in the magician's box. Oh my god, creepy clown. Okay, Faith's diary. I can barely contain my excitement, Matthew, reading this diary. Nothing is more thrilling than the endless musings of an adolescent female. I beg your pardon, Diego. That book contains the innermost thoughts of a young woman. Where's your decorum? My apologies, Matthew. Now, about the diary itself, while I cannot speak to Faith Woodford's current state of mind, the language and the handwriting indicate she was of sound mind at the time of writing. And on what are you basing your conclusions, Diego? The narrative of a mentally unstable individual would be incoherent, lacking structure. The entries on these papers, however, make perfect sense. And while I expected to find erratic scrawled handwriting, Faith's penmanship is flawless. There isn't a misstroke to be found. As far as I'm concerned, these entries are merely the musings of a rational young woman. This is troubling, Matthew. We found Gryphon Sanctuary deficient in many areas, but surely the unnecessary admission of healthy patients isn't one of them. However, under the circumstances, I see no choice but that we speak with Faith herself. what she has to say. Senior Trooper Matthew, thank goodness. You mustn't allow me to rot away here at Gryphon Sanctuary. I don't belong here. That's precisely why we've come, Miss Woodford. Your sister Hope has made a convincing argument in your favor, but we'd like to hear your version of the story. It's not my version of the story, it's the truth. I was locked away because of my flights of fancy, but the truth is my parents just didn't want me to live the life I wanted. I've written stories since I was a child, and I was determined to make this my trade, but my parents said becoming a writer would dishonor the family name, sending me here to rot. The doctors wouldn't listen, and with the drugs they kept pumping into me, it wasn't long before I started seeing things. But I threw away that poison when I escaped, and I was fully lucid when I killed Lynn. It's fear that drove me to murder, not madness. You realize you only have your word, Miss Woodford. Without those drugs, I have proof. I hid what was left of the medicine in the Wonderland Carnival tent. It will still be there. Very well, Matthew. It appears you're heading back to the circus, but let's stop for refreshments on the way. I'm famished. Trash can. Ugh. I probably should have put a instant magnifier on. Oh man, a minute already. Minute 10. Capital thinking, Matthew. If Faith Woodford threw away medication from her treatment at Gryphon Sanctuary, what better place to look than in the trash? Let's roll up our sleeves and dig in. There it is. You found a vial of medicine that clearly belonged to Faith Woodford in that trash can, Matthew. Do be careful with that syringe. Let's send this elixir straight to Viola for some definitive answers. If Faith has been wrongfully committed to Gryphon Sanctuary, we must find out. This is 6 hours also, but as a treat for y'all, I'm speeding this up. You were wise to take caution with that syringe, Matthew. Both of the medicines you sent me are extremely potent and rather alarming. Taken separately, these two pharmaceuticals are relatively harmless. They're designed to sedate a patient, calming their nerves. However, when combined, the substances have the opposite effect, including hallucinations and unsettling the mind. Are you saying Faith Woodford was prescribed these drugs to deliberately make her appear unstable? I have no proof it was intentional, the prescribing physician was the late Dr. Irving Blackmore, so it may have been a case of malpractice. I agree, Matthew. We've already seen firsthand Dr. Blackmore's questionable treatment methods. The heart of the matter is that there are no conclusive grounds for Faith's mental illness, and she should therefore not be forced to remain at Gryphon Sanctuary. For all intents and purposes, she must be considered in full possession of her mental faculties at the time of Linhart's murder. Which means Faith belongs in prison, not an asylum. That settles it, Matthew. We must seek an audience with Judge Lawson and petition him to repeal his sentence. To the courthouse. We appreciate you taking the time to conduct this hearing, Judge Lawson. Matthew has uncovered new information regarding the mental health of Faith Woodford. The circumstances surrounding her commitment and the effects of her prescribed medication raise doubts about her being mentally ill. We therefore request she serve out her sentence in prison. I agree, Matthew. I reviewed Miss Woodford's file, and I found no clear evidence Linhart's murder was the result of madness. Miss Woodford will be immediately released from Gryphon Sanctuary and serve 20 years in prison for her crimes. And let me take the opportunity of this hearing to express my concerns about the management of Gryphon Sanctuary. There seems to be a clear lack of direction and oversight. If we may, Judge Lawson, would it be possible for the two sisters to see each other before Faith is transferred? After Hope's extensive search, it only seems fair they have the chance to be reunited. Very well, Matthew. I'll allow it. The Woodford sisters will be permitted a meeting under the strict supervision of the flying squad. Court is adjourned. And let's reunite the two. Is it really true, Senior Trooper Matthew? Am I being transferred out of Gryphon Sanctuary? Yes, you will serve out your sentence in prison, and there's someone here who would like to see you. Faith, I always knew I'd find you. Hope, after all this time. Oh, that's great. Matthew, this is a sight for sore eyes. Hope, I'm so sorry I let you down. I should have known you'd find me, but I got so scared. I understand. You were backed into a corner. Prison bars won't separate us now. I'll come visit you every day. At last, I know you'll be safe. Senior Trooper Matthew, thanks for everything you've done for us. I know this is a small gesture, but please take this. We're forever in your debt. 20,000. Cool. Congratulations all around on a splendid job, Matthew, and fortuitous timing. Our new police commissioner, Thaddeus Mulroney, just stopped by for a visit. Senior Trooper Matthew, your impeccable reputation precedes you. The citizens of Concordia owe you a debt of gratitude for your stellar work at the Flying Squad. I'm aware I have big shoes to fill following the death of Commissioner Baldwin, but I feel confident Mayor Castletown has made the right decision appointing me to the office. I look forward to working with you, Senior Trooper Matthew. That will be all, Matthew. Can I offer you a tour of the airship, Commissioner Mulroney? I do believe the Chief is correct, Matthew. With Commissioner Mulroney at the helm, the Concordian Police Department is in good hands. And although Faith Woodford will spend a long time in prison, I'm gratified we helped her reunite with her sister. But frankly, I'm disturbed by the woeful tidings emerging from Gryphon Sanctuary. Not only did Faith manage to escape their custody, she was so terrified at the prospect of returning, she was willing to commit murder. And who could blame her, since it's evident she was committed to the asylum despite being of sound mind. One has to wonder what else might be going on at Gryphon Sanctuary, and whether it's linked to the Rochester's alleged dark schemes in Grim Chapel. Staff at the asylum have been tight-lipped, but I've heard they often lodge at the nearby Claiborne Hotel. If that's the case, we haven't a moment to lose, Matthew. We're checking into the Claiborne Hotel. Okay. October 12th. That's a Tuesday. Or no, it's not. The 10th is a Tuesday. That's the 12th is a Thursday. Okay. Got my days mixed up a little bit there. Three new ones again. Okay. That will do. And I'll see you guys on October 12th. See y'all then.